Hey everyone, it's Amber. Welcome to Yin Yoga. I'm here with my assistants, Gus and Oliver, and we're going to try to bring a different kind of yoga to you today. Oh, don't fight. Let's see how this goes. But Yin Yoga, if you've never done it before, it's where we hold the postures for a longer time. And oh, or you could try wrestling. So in Yin, as we hold the postures for a longer period of time, what that does is it gives our bodies a chance to soften in with each movement. And that way it goes through all the layers. We have the skin, we have the fascia, we have the muscles, and all the soft tissue of the organs. And then, of course, all of the vessels that run through the blood vessels and lymph. So we get the opportunity to address the body in a slow, conscious, and mindful way. So what I have are a bunch of props. These are things that you might have at home or you might not. That's why I'm trying to present you with a lot of options. First, I have a couple of foam blocks, and the foam ones in this case might be better than the cork because if you do kneel on them or sit on them, it might be a bit more comfortable. I have either a scarf or a yoga strap. And if you don't have a yoga strap, something like a scarf or necktie will work just fine. And in fact, a scarf might work even better because you can make it wider so it doesn't constrict right around one particular spot. I have this gigantic bolster here. Now, this is not something you might necessarily have. So I've also brought along with me a couple different pillows. These are just ordinary bed pillows. So one that's extremely firm and one that's so soft it could be mushed up for support. So as we go through practice, we'll see an experiment with what works. You might also want a folded blanket, folded or rolled up, so something that's more dense. Okay, so if you have a mat, that's great. If you don't have a mat, don't worry about it. The difference in having a mat is when we go into a posture, it keeps us from sliding. It also adds some shock absorption. But since this isn't a flow class and we're doing yin, you might not even notice much difference. But, if you can get a mat, try to get around the 5 millimeter thickness. This happens to be an eco rubber mat from Lifeform. They don't pay me to tell you that. So what we're going to do first is set our sankalpa and come to a grounding and centering point. So I'm standing a little bit wider than we do in mountain posture. And the reason that I'm starting standing is because our first yin posture will be a standing posture. So I'm going to bring my hands to heart center at Anjali Mudra. This is a time where we just focus on the breath. We allow ourselves to be present. We come into our space. And that might sound a little unusual, that of course I'm here, I'm in my space, but we're making it as a declaration, grounding ourselves so that we are allowing ourselves to be here. Your mind is going to wander, it just does, but we'll try to reel it back whenever that happens. So I'll take another couple breaths here, nice and deep, filling up the belly and letting it out. And then we'll do our intention, setting our sankalpa. So the sankalpa is something that we can phrase in the present tense. And say, I am calm, I am healthy, I am open to this new exploration. So whatever sankalpa you're willing to take for yourself, enjoy that and use it as a mantra. So as we go through practice and as your mind starts to wander, what you can do is simply recall that, even if it's narrowed down to one word. So if it's spontaneity or adventure or exploration or liberation, whatever word comes to mind as we go through this practice, allow it to be yours. So I'm going to turn to the side only for the sake of the camera. We're going to come into a forward fold. I'm going to approach this just as we do in mountain. So hinging forward here at the hips and allowing the body to slowly come down. You can allow the chin to tuck in at this point. And the options here are to either use blocks, or if you don't have blocks, a couple of thick books will do. But the way that we want to release the body in this particular version of our forward fold is to grab the opposite elbows and really allow yourself to hang. Pour yourself as if your upper body is just tipping out of that pelvic bowl shape and coming forward. If it feels good, maybe you want to sway from side to side. Keep the knees soft. It's not about how far forward you are here. So some people might be able to touch the floor with their hands. And that's not the goal. We're not working towards goals other than softening and being in the present moment. So because of that reason, I like to use the blocks. It just feels like there's a lot of wonderful support, and I can tuck my chin and I don't have to worry about tipping over. And softening down, being still. That's the part of yin, is the stillness. It's the big part. So as we hang in this wonderful posture for a couple more minutes maybe, you might find that there's some tingling. If you feel too dizzy, or if you have pressure in your head behind the eyes, either sinus issues, glaucoma, or a migraine, anything that's really bothering your head, come up early. You can only tolerate it for as long as you possibly can, but we don't want to cause any damage or any more harm. So the rest of us are going to stay here for another minute. And I'm sure you're doing wonderful. So if you're starting to feel any sensations through the back of the knees, directly behind the knees, then just give yourself that little reminder that having soft bent knees is okay. Allow yourself to take 5 more breaths if you're still here in the fold. Inhaling and exhaling for 1. And 2. And 3. Letting it all out. 4. One more breath here. And now to come out of this posture, we're going to really bend through the knees. And even though we hold postures in yin for a long time, in between all of those yin postures, we're going to still bring in some other movements. So as I'm sinking my backside down, I can come up into chair posture and then reach up, standing up into mountain, nice tall mountain, and releasing down. We'll just roll the shoulders. Maybe you can come down to your mat if you're ready. We're going to tuck the chin. We're going to rock the chin from side to side here. Let's reach the arms up. Take a big inhale in and exhale it down. Chin comes down to the chest. One more big breath in and exhale it down. Let that come down. So now we'll get ready for our next posture. And for this, you might want a couple of blocks, 1 or 2, depending on your own anatomy. You might want to use books if you don't have blocks handy. Maybe a little footstool will come in handy. You could also take a blanket. We're going to be coming into a squat. So any way that you need to support the sits bones underneath you, let's take a moment and get your props ready. Okay. Oh, Gus is here. He's going to help as we move into our next posture. So if you have an assistant like this, consider yourself very lucky. You have an addition to your practice. It's not an interruption. So we're going to come into a yogi squat. And I have to retrieve my clock that Gus took. So in a squat, we want to make our legs nice and wide. Yeah, you're helping? Nice bend to the knees. As we start to sink the tailbone down, this is where options are going to come into play. So if you are comfortable in your practice, then you can stay without any props at all. But just remember that we're going to be here a while. So if you do have a gigantic pillow, that might come in perfectly handy and fit very well. But the other options are 1 or 2 blocks. Remember that our blocks have different heights. So this particular block is 4 inches. I put it this way, I could put it this way, or I could put it this way and then have a 6-inch lift. If you're going to do it on the tallest, you might want to definitely take the 2 and stack them underneath just for the most amount of support possible. So my assistant is leaving. This feels a little too high for me, so I'm going to come down and work on it this way. So my elbows are going to make their way towards the inside of my knees. And with yin, since we're going to have to grant ourselves the opportunity to sink and open and get softer, we try to not move all that much. So it does take a little while to figure out where you want to be and then stay there. And as the body starts to soften up, you might find very small adjustments that are helpful. So this is a squat that we're going to hold for about 2 to 3 minutes. Don't hold the breath. Even in a challenging posture, you want to feel the breath. If the breath isn't coming naturally, then pull yourself back. Ease up on the shape that you're making. Now, when we have our hands in Anjali Mudra, it's very common to tuck the chin and even focus inward here. You can close the eyes if that helps. What we don't want to do is start to slide forward. We want to bring this sternum or the breastbone into our hands. So even without arching the back, we have a nice neutral spine. I'm going to turn sideways now just so that you can see. And this way I'm not collapsing my chest. I'm lifting that heart into my thumbs. So that's how it looks from the side. Finding your breath again if you've lost that consciousness or the mindfulness of it. We welcome ourselves to this posture. Enjoy the shape of it. Enjoy the opening through the hips. And it's believed that there's a lot of emotions that are stored in different body parts. It's stored all over the body. And in Yin, it can be very common to have an emotional experience. It can honestly happen in any type of yoga class, because I know I've cried through plenty of Hatha yoga classes. But I've also seen it happen in aerials and in Yin. So if you start to experience a dramatic emotional opening, recognize it for what it is, and then allow it to happen. You're in a safe place. It's your opportunity to investigate with curiosity, and you don't have to judge yourself. And this is our time for nurturing. So if you remember the acronym RAIN, R-A-I-N, it's a practice called self-compassion, and it's a wonderful acronym. Recognize what's happening, allow it to happen, investigate with curiosity, but not judgment, and then nurture yourself. And also, the N could stand for non-identifying. Whatever you're going through is not a label that's permanent. We think of our labels as the kind that can peel off or erase them and rewrite them. Then that's okay. Let's enjoy 3 more breaths here. We'll see if we can welcome any assistants back to the room. Gus, do you want to come back? You're very busy over there? You look like you're getting into trouble. So to come out of this, we have to be gentle with ourselves as always. So if you are on a support, it's going to be a little bit easier. If you are able, we're going to help bring those legs in to ease up from the hip flexors. And then we're going to rock ourselves off of our prop. We can move the props out of the way. Hi. Yeah, you want to take care of these for me? So if you were without a prop, a nice way to come down might simply be to lower Let that tailbone get to the floor. And we'll take the legs out. You probably hear my knees making all kinds of musical crackling right there. So since we worked very hard on those hip flexors, we want to open them up a little. I'm going to turn, let's see, moving some of my props out of the way. I'm just going to turn a little bit on a diagonal here. We're going to just open up the front part of our hips with a reverse table. So if you don't feel comfortable coming all the way into reverse table, you can lift the chest, lengthen the legs. Take a nice breath or two this way. If you want to come into the reverse table, we're going to bring our feet close, but not too close. We're going to engage through the core and then lift up and see if you can make a neutral spine here. Opening up these hips in a different way, opening up the front of the hips as opposed to widening the hips. And then we'll lower down just as a transition. From here, we're going to take what's called an easy seat, and I use air quotes there on purpose because it doesn't mean that it's easy for everyone. It means to come into the seat with ease. So allow that to be a seated posture that can bring ease to you. If you need a chair, then just take the opportunity to pause and set up a chair. If you're okay coming into Sukhasana, which is a crisscross leg in Hatha Yoga, that's one option. This is typically what's referred to as easy. The other version that you might enjoy, if also you can always put that folded blanket underneath your backside. But to come into Siddhasana, you're going to definitely need to prop the hips here and allow the heels to come in one in front of the other. Find the sits bones making contact with whatever is under you. So if that's the floor, the mat, if that's the chair seat, take a couple seconds just to find that rooted sensation of contact. So now we have our lower body navigating down. We have the upper body lifting. Hey, you leaving me again? Okay. So with a comfortable neutral spine, let's check the pelvis. Make sure that it's not tipping too far forward. We want to still activate through what in the Chinese medicine, like Tai Chi or Qigong, they say the Dantian. In yoga, we refer to this as the Uddiyana Bandha. So from the navel to the pubic bone, we want to activate, pull in those muscles. That will also help lift the pelvic floor muscles from the Muladhara. So our Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha are both activated. That helps to bring a nice neutral central channel to the spine. And while we're in this, then we can start to either close the eyes or, again, options. If closing the eyes isn't something that you like to do, you can always have a soft gaze on a focal point. It could be a crystal, it could be your assistant who walks into the room and maybe makes themselves comfortable on your mat. Maybe you have a fountain nearby or a candle or anything at all. Something that brings you calm and peace without too much emotional reaction, unless it's just much comfort. Since we're moving in a way that's subtle, comfort is a big issue. We have to welcome the stillness here. And that's something that, again, it's not for everyone, and it can be very challenging. And what I invite you to do if you have your legs crisscrossed is to extend them out and then reverse the way that you had them. Sometimes we just naturally sit a certain way. Now let's take 6 deep breaths here. Make them very conscious and mindful. Feel the breath move all the way down. Maybe this is your 3rd breath. You should be coming around to your 6th breath. And we're going to move on, so we will move ourselves out of this posture safely. And one way of doing that is uncrossing the legs. Obviously, you could have done a different seated version than I had my legs in the Siddhasana as opposed to Sukhasana. So if you have your crisscross legs and they're very tight and you're able to, you might just rock forward, remove your prop, uncross the legs, and sit yourself back. Bring those legs out. If you're in a chair, you can just stretch the legs, give them a good stretch, and we're going to wake them up a little here. So you can either use fists, soft fists, a little pummeling going, or you can use more of an open hand. But it feels really, really good to go up and down the legs this way. So we're going to recross our legs in order to come into some twists. This, again, the options. You can stay with yourself propped up if you have a different kind of prop, or if you just want a little bit of lift, that might be all you need. We're going to find that neutral spine again. We're going to activate those bandhas. Let the arms come out to the sides. Lift them up, so you can either reach out to the side, or maybe for a different option, come forward and lift up. We're going to twist to one side, so it might look the opposite of what I'm doing with what you are doing, and that's okay. Some people think that you need to go first a particular side and then follow through. To me, I think as long as you're getting both sides in, they have benefits. So we're going to reach up so that there's a lot of space. Taking a big breath in to fill the belly, lowering the hands, one in front, one in back. And what I'm able to do here is take this front hand to the knee that's opposite, and that helps pull me around. If you find that you have maybe an ample chest or belly, you might be able to navigate your arm in between those areas in order to reach the thigh. And we find ourselves still reaching with the crown of our head opposite of the lower part of our bodies. And then we invite the stillness. When your mind starts wandering, you might start noticing things that are distracting, like sounds from outside or in other parts of your building. And it's okay to notice them. It's part of the experience. It's going to be part of this session. Since we have another side to do, we're going to slowly unwind here. So if your head happened to be turned all the way over the back shoulder, bring your head around first, and then we'll work our way down the spine. So the shoulders, through the chest, and then through the lower half of the spine. And we'll get ready to move to the other side. So let's open up our crisscross and see if we can possibly get comfortable with the legs the other way. Lift the arms up, making space for our breath, filling up through, letting the diaphragm expand and contract, letting the lungs open. As you feel the ribs lift and separate to make space between each set, then we can begin to turn. So we'll pull the belly muscles in, we'll take the twist, lower the arms. And again, thinking about how your own anatomy is, maybe you need to work a special way to find comfort in where your hands are. If you find that your knees are just way too high, you can always bring props. And even if in the back you felt like on the one side you gave it a shot and it wasn't quite comfortable, then bring the block behind you or book and use that as a point of contact for your back hand. We'll start to welcome the stillness here. Again, noticing what's going on in our bodies. Making any micro adjustments that you need, just small little shifts, trying to otherwise stay still and enjoy what you can. And noticing what the body is willing to tell you. Is that pillow in your way, Gus? Do you want me to move this? How's that? Is that better? And then we'll start to turn the head first. We'll bring our shoulders around, the chest comes around, unwinding the rest of the spine. Let's open those legs. Get your toes some good stretching. Lifting those toes towards the ceiling, spreading them apart, curling them in. We'll take a big breath in, and we're going to come into a forward fold here. So again, as we address our own anatomy, if you find that forward folds are very uncomfortable seated, a little trick is to just take those squishy bits, push them in, make space for yourself, and then bring the arms forward. It's not about reaching through the shoulders here, or necessarily about getting your head close to your knees. You can have this wonderful length of spine. Just let your hands fall wherever they happen to fall. Mine come pretty close to my toes. And you can give a little shimmy to really find your way into this seated forward fold here. We're not going to be here very long. We're doing this as a transition move. So then we can place our hands down and start to walk ourselves up. We're going to take ourselves and swing our way around. Starting to locate all of the possible props that might be around. So for our next posture, we're going to come into dragon, which is a low lunge on the knee. So that's why I put a pillow right here. Maybe you have a folded blanket. I have some very high blocks. If that doesn't work, you might also want to do this with a chair next to you. So that way you can hold onto the chair instead of, put the chair in front of you, hold on that way instead of the blocks. The blocks might be too low. So to start, I'm just going to come to standing. Make adjustments. Starting to take my forward fold here. My legs are wide apart. I'm bringing my hands to the top of the blocks. I'm going to take my right knee and place it down onto the cushion. At the moment, my back toes are curled. So now I can bring my left foot forward and walk my hands forward. With the blocks here, framing my front foot, and then untucking the toes in the back. You can start to work your way into this so that you get lower and lower. It's going to depend on your own comfort because you don't want to feel that you're crushing your knee. So I'm just gently sliding my back leg back a little bit at a time till I find a place that's comfortable. And this way my front knee is pretty much over my ankle. Might not be exactly, but it's close. Got support in my hands to my blocks, making contact. If you need to keep the toes curled in the back, that's an option. Just play around with that for a couple seconds and see which way will actually allow you to get into this shape, or dragon, or Anjaneyasana. We'll allow that tailbone to lengthen away from the crown of the head. You can look a little bit in front of your mat so you don't have to have your head up and straining if it doesn't want to be, but you can look forward too. We just don't want to end up slouching. None of this. So we want to have a nice support. And again, where your eyes go is going to be up to you. So you can keep your chin in place and just move the eyes, of course. We'll take 3 more breaths here. And to come out of this, I want to readjust where my center is. So I'm going to start to pull my hips back, taking the blocks with me with my hands. And that way I'm going to lift my front toes up, lean forward. I've also curled my toes in the back, but you don't have to. And then as I come forward, I'm going to be very mindful of all of these props here. I'm curling my back toes, and I'm going to start to lift my hips. This way, I'm in pyramid. So my back toes are going to point outward a little bit. I'm going to move my prop just so you can maybe see. My hips are going forward, same direction as my mat. And this is, again, just a transition, so it's not about bringing my knee all the way in contact with my nose. Start to press up through the hands, bring the back foot forward, soften through the knees, and come up. Maybe you can raise yourself up into a tall mountain posture here. Bring the arms down. We'll set up for the other side. So to do that, noticing if your body has different needs from side to side also. It's very possible, especially if you've had surgery only on one side. So I'm going to take my feet to either side. I'm going to come into a forward fold using my blocks. I'm working my blocks forward. I'm going to take my left knee, place it down, bringing my right foot forward in between the blocks, having them framed. And then starting to lift my back knee and slide it back. Noticing any differences from side to side, again without judgment, just observing. Bring the awareness to your shoulders. See if you feel like your head has sunk down and your shoulders are up by your ears. Lift up. Allowing the opportunity to look inward. Maybe you can envision yourself being shrunk down to a microscopic level and just navigating through your body. There's some older movies like Fantastic Voyage or Inner Space about being inside the human body. Osmosis Jones, a big cartoon about it. And just feel your way through the body. See what's opening up. See what might be resisting. You could always journal about that afterward and ask yourself what resistance was happening. We're going to take 3 more breaths here. Allow yourself to sink to your deepest part before we shift out. And then we'll start to press through that front foot. Move our blocks back. Maybe curling the toes in the back, that's up to you. And as we lift the toes in the front up, we're going to rock back, just get a little stretch. We're going to rock forward. We might bring that front foot closer so that our stance is not as wide. Curling the toes in the back, we're going to lift the hips, flatten the foot, so your foot should be totally down in the back. Our hips are square to the mat, and we're going to lower ourselves down into pyramid. We're going to look forward towards our front foot. Lift our heel in the back, step forward. Bend the knees, and we're going to come back to the mat. So whichever process of transitioning to get back to the mat works for you, take that opportunity and do it your way. So there are a couple more stretches just to round out our practice. I'm going to turn a little bit sideways here just so that you can see. You're going to stretch yourself out nice and long. Reach your arms up overhead and reach from fingertips to toes. Now for this use of the strap or scarf here, we're going to bend both knees. You might have to lift your hips and flatten out that lower back. I'm going to lift my right leg. I'm going to take my scarf and have it ready. I'm going to turn my right leg so that my ankle goes over my left knee. And you might find yourself there. That might be enough for you. If you're going to continue further, we're going to slide the left foot closer to the sits bones and then lift the left leg off the ground. So again, you might not need any other resistance at this point, but if you want to, you can take your scarf, thread it around your left thigh, and pull that in towards you, and you'll feel the right outside part of the hip getting a good stretch. We want to keep our feet active here. Shoulders are relaxed and down, even though they're holding onto something. So whether you're holding a strap or interlaced around the thigh, you don't want your shoulders to be curled up and in. You want to keep the shoulders relaxed. That's why a strap might come in handy for this. We'll release that. We're going to lift that leg up, bring the foot down. We'll switch sides. So we'll lift the left up, open it to the side so the knee opens out, cross the ankle over the knee. Lifting that right leg if you feel like taking it further. Maybe threading your scarf around that thigh, pulling it in. Activating your feet, relaxing the shoulders down to the mat. So if you don't feel your shoulder blades, those big triangular blades of bone touching the mat, then you might need to ease up a bit here. If you bring attention to your chin and your chin is pointing way up to the ceiling, lift your head, tuck the chin, come down to the back of the head. going to release that leg, allow the foot to come down. Put the strap or scarf off to the side. Lift that left leg, lowering it down. And then you can open the legs out. Maybe you're ready to turn your palms up. Bring some space between the feet. Bring the arms away from the body. And you're going to stay right there if you're comfortable while I move to sit up. I would want you to enjoy your restoration as you bring a closure to this yin practice. Allow yourself to be at ease and still. Feel yourself being heavy and supported by what's beneath you. And you can stay in this posture for as long as you're able, enjoying what's called Shavasana in Hatha Yoga, or restoration. It gives ourselves a time to regenerate, time for stillness, time to really enjoy the yin. While you're there and you're resting and at peace, I want to thank you for your time, for your dedication to your self-care, and your exploration, enjoying the journey, especially with Yin. There's so much journey involved here. From my heart to yours. Namaste. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.